Good afternoon, this is Carolyn, and welcome to Scrapbooking with a Twist. I'm going to make an embellishment for the Ginger Corner Scraps to Embellishment swap. And this one is, this video will come out May the 14th, I believe it is. And the theme of it is breaking news. And we have to create a flower embellishment with book or newspaper print. And then of course, we have to do the layers. So that is what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to use to make this out of. I got this book probably in 1976, I guess, but the copyright is 1968. And the little library of the school where I was teaching was getting rid of a bunch of old books. And this was one of the ones they were getting rid of. And I got a bunch of them. I bought several. And I've just had it in my cabinet. And I kept most of them, but this one I decided that I was going to use like when I wanted to do something vintage or something. Because look how the pages are, you know, distressed and aged. And it's just really, and it's got some pictures and things like that in it. And it doesn't have any value because one of the students had written a bunch of the famous football, like Walt Garrison, Calvin Hill, Dick Butkus, and they had basically just ruined it. And so, but I liked it for the stories, and I still like the stories because they're just short, Sherlock Holmes stories. So it's really kind of fun reading. But anyway, that's what I used to punch all of my flowers. And I'm going to show you, I dig out these punches ever so often and do things with them. And these are the punches. Look at this. I used all of these punches for this embellishment today. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different punches, flower punches to make this embellishment. And then I will show you the embellishment that I made. And we will make one. I liked this, the theme for this swap. It was something different, and I really liked it. So this is what I made. And I thought it could go around the corner of a picture or up in the corner of a page. And so, and they're not, I don't know that there's any two of them exactly alike. So anyway, they could go top or bottom. This is what I made today. So I'm just going to stick those up there. And I'm going to put together a few things, and then I'm going to pull together some things I've already made because this video could get very long. Here are a bunch of the ones that I have punched. And we're going to use what I used. One of these big flowers. I counted like all the layers, and it's like about 27, 28 layers. So we certainly made the layer requirement. But, and I'm going to show you how I have to ink these because this paper is really delicate because it's so old. And so I've already inked that one. I've already inked some of these, but I'm going to show you how I inked these for this. I had a little sheet of paper here somewhere. Because I tried inking them in the traditional way, just, you know, using the dauber and, you know, going around it like you normally would, you know, like this. And I just kept tearing the paper. And so what I ended up doing, and I used my vintage photo for this, but what I ended up doing was putting it down on this paper and then just going around it like this with my dauber. And trust me, there's a lot of petals on a lot of flowers on that. So the inking kind of took forever. I just re-inked my ink pad so it's kind of juicy, and I got a little heavy right there. But the inking process really did take a while. Punching is easy. That goes really fast. I love it when I punch instead of having to die cut because it just goes so much faster. But this inking process was something else on this. It took a while. So let me go ahead. I'm going to ink these and just kind of show you the process of building them. And then I've already got some made because parts of it have to dry before you can do something else. So while I'm doing this and while I'm kind of showing you the different sizes in the process, I want to do the twist. The twist today comes from 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. And it says, like newborn babies crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you've tasted that the Lord is good. So crave spiritual milk. That's the idea of that verse. And so my thought was, what is our appetite? What is our spiritual appetite? A newborn baby craves milk. They don't crave anything else. You can offer them the choicest steak. You can offer them fine chocolate, which, you know, I would go for any day. You can offer them some of the finest things on the face of the earth, food-wise, and they will spit it out. They will turn their little nose up at it because they know what they want. They crave milk, and that's all they want. They know that that's what they need, that that's what will nourish them, and that's what they want, and they won't accept anything else. And that newborn is smarter than we are, to be real honest about it, because what do we crave? Do we crave God's pure word, which is what that's talking about, or would we rather have junk food? You know, I have to be honest. I'd probably rather have the junk food. But we should spiritually want nothing else. Peter says, don't just want it, but literally crave it. Crave God's word above all else in our spiritual lives. Instead, I think I do, for sure, spend too much time munching on junk food, spiritual junk food, which, you know, when you really define what is spiritual junk food, that's just the half-truths or the lies, the out-and-out lies that the world would try to tell us are reality and our truth, and they're not truth when we weigh them against God's word. So do we want the pure milk of God's word, or do we want spiritual junk food that won't do us any good, that won't grow us? And he ends that verse by saying, you've tasted God's goodness. You've tasted how good the Lord is. You've tasted that sweet milk. And then are you going to stick to that, or are you going to fall for the world's junk food? So I like that verse. I'm actually teaching the 2 letters that Peter wrote these churches in Asia Minor this quarter in our Bible study. So yeah, I really liked that verse when I came across it. Okay, I think I have enough stuff now that's inked. So I'm going to just put these things over here in case I need them, and I actually have some more. Okay, so let's build these, and I'll show you how I built them, and then I have some, I'm just going to build a couple, and then we'll just get right into making it. So here is the big one. And I started with just some foam tape between the 2 layers of this big one. And let's start with the type. This one's, I just did some that had all of the words. I did some that had words here and there, some that were, you know, just plain weathered, you know, year stained. It looks like tea dye. I just did some of everything that was available in that book to give it some variety. So let's take these 2 inked big punches, flower punches, and we've got them now with a layer of foam in between them. And then the next thing that goes on them is, you know, I don't think I have enough of, yeah, I will, is this one. This next size goes next. And I think there are 2 layers of it. So let's just put 1 layer down, and then we'll put some foam between the 2 layers of it. So let's go back. Let's alternate and go back to our typed one with the words on it. And then let's put a, let's use one of these. Let's put some foam between those two layers. And then put this one, offset it. We're getting a lot of good layers. And then we need one like this. Let's see. I need one that has more, there's one, has more print on it. Let's use this one. Now on these, I didn't ink. Once I got down to this size, I didn't ink them. But I did take just my little pickup tool and form them. And now I'll show you how I did all of these. I formed all of these. I wasn't going to take the time in the video to curl them all, but let me show you, and I will do it later, but let me show you how because you can't do it like this with your thumbnail because it's so delicate. So I just took it and kind of rocked it back and forth like that to give it some curl on all of the layers so that they weren't flat. They will flatten out some, in the mail when they get all smushed in the mail, but that will kind of shows you how to reconstitute that flower. And then inside of that, I put one that is this size. So, and I just put that down in the palm of my hand and pushed in on it just to give it some shape. Come out and glue. And put that in there. And then I kind of pressed in on all of them. And then to top it off, I used some Nouveau, and this is dark walnut Nouveau for the center. Looks a lot like a enamel dot in there. So that's just the process for building, whether it's this flower, this flower, this flower, it doesn't matter. That's the process for building the flowers. So I'm just going to stick that up there, and I already have some built that I'm going to use to show you how I made the actual embellishment so that you don't have to watch me build all the flowers. So I had just these were 4x6 cards that I had moved from. I used to have some 4x6 place where I kept all my 4x6. I moved them into my scrap drawers, my scrap folders, and I've used them so much more. I mean, this is like Once Upon a Time. I'm not going to use Once Upon a Time, probably scrapbooking for my grandsons. So I just pull that out to use as a scrap to be the base for this. And I'm just kind of making this corner of a picture frame. I thought you could put it on the corner of a scrapbook page. You could put it on the corner of your focal picture. That was kind of my thought for this embellishment. So I've already put the big one in the corner. I cut this little, this kind of like a backward 7. You could do it the other way. You could go the other direction. It wouldn't really matter. But I've already cut that, and I've already glued the big flower onto it. And now I'm going to use 2 of these next size flowers. And basically, it's just take the 2 big punches off, and it's the inside of all of that was what this next one was. And so I'm going to put one of those on each side of the big one. And I'm just kind of nestling them in there. Some parts of it over, some parts of it under, just to kind of nestle it in. Again, I want that separated. And these, by doing this, all of the little flower centers are dry because if I try to work with them while those little flower centers are wet, I usually mess them up. And then this flower, which is going to go down here, is 2 of this punch, just, of course, done on an offset, and then 1 of this one, and 1, see, so it goes, it's this combination, these 4. This one, 2 of this one, 1 of this one, and 1 of that one to make this flower. And again, I'm just going to kind of nestle it in under there. And then over here, I'm going to cut, these are all going to get cut off. But I found that it was easier to be sure and cover this if I kind of cut this one off before I put the flowers on it. So I'm going to leave about that much. Okay. Now, I have these flowers that I'm going to use, and that is 1 of these and 1 of these. And then, of course, the little thing in the middle. Get these back off of there. And so I'm going to put that on there. Nestle it right in there somewhere. And then from there, I'm just going to see what I need to cover. And I probably just need 1, maybe right there, of these smaller ones. So let's see what we need. Let's get 1 of these. I'm going to curl it in my palm of my hand. I'm going to put a little glue right in there. And if we need to, we'll use 2. But with that real neutral cardstock under this, even if every single little place isn't covered, it doesn't show, it looks covered. And so now that needs a drop of Nouveau right in there to finish out that little flower. And then we can trim this, and I just came in and kind of rolled those up so I could get my scissors in under there and cut that away. And then you have your embellishment, just like that. And all we used were flower punches, some Nouveau drops, some scrap paper to glue them all down to, and some ink. That's all we used. But I used my old book, so I didn't even get into any scrapbook paper except for the little 7 shape thing that I built it all up on. So I like this one. To me, it's a little bit vintagey, and I don't use a lot of vintage, but I think it'll be gorgeous, like with reds to really give it a pop, or it could just go very monochromatic and go with the browns and off-whites. It'd be gorgeous. It would be elegant. So I think you could just use it any way you wanted to. You could use it vintage, or you could pull it into something else. I don't think it has to be vintage. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for dropping by my channel, and have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone else.